All right, and we are live. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Can Startup Stories, Mental Health Awareness for Entrepreneurs. This is our 14th event of this series. It started out as Van Startup Stories back before COVID when we could do this in person. And since we're now virtual, this is the 5th time we've done Can Startup Stories. And this is the 2nd year in a row in January that I've had the honor to be part of our speaker talk, which is Mental Health Awareness for Entrepreneurs. My name is Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver. And Startup Vancouver is one of over 40 chapters of Startup Canada across the country. And as you can see behind me, to my left with my sign, Startup Vancouver, the word connect. That is what we do. We are here. Our purpose is a volunteer group of entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs to connect entrepreneurs to each other, to resources, to mentors, to events, both here locally, regionally, and across the country. And mental health awareness for everyone, but especially entrepreneurs, is such a critically important topic now, more than ever, especially during COVID, that I am honored to have this opportunity to have 6 good friends, 6 diverse, dynamic speakers tonight that will be joining us to tell us their story. And as you can see here up on the screen, our speakers today will be Farah Saad, who is the founder and CEO of Become Mindfulness Consulting. We have Eric Windler, who is the founder and executive director of Jack.org. And as I'll talk about in a moment, Jack.org, we're very proud over the last year to have them involved with us as our charity sponsor, really, our partner that we've collaborated with to raise money for them. And we'll talk a little more about that in a moment. And also Teresa Corazon, who is not only the founder and partner of Social Light Conference, but also is doing some amazing things with the Miracle Morning movie. And she'll tell us about that and her journey. Also with Paul Marlowe, I've had the pleasure of having Paul on our weekly show, which is What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times with Startup Vancouver. And Paul was a really gracious guest on that show and said, Paul, come on, you got to come on this and share your story with us, which he will do today, and what he's created with the Never Alone movement. And then my very good friend, Marian Mobini, who is the CEO of To Resonate, one of the many hats that she wears. She will be ending the show today with us with her talk. I'm not going to have any spoilers there. But Miriam's also one of my co-hosts on our weekly show that we have, What Keeps You Up at Night, that I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to talk about my friend Rivers Corbett in a moment here because he is our first speaker. But I'm first going to forward the slides here. As I mentioned, I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver. We've been at it for about 4 years. And what we do here as a volunteer group is now we do multiple events that connect entrepreneurs to each other, as I did mention earlier. Best way to find out more about us or to engage with us is through social media. We're very active on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And tonight is no different. And if you're into the social media thing and you want to live tweet out anything with the mental health hashtag and also with the hashtag Can Startup Stories, so we can track that and then we can see how well we've really impacted our community here. So if you want to do that, we appreciate that, and we will gladly share anything that you put on social media on our behalf here with this event tonight. And with Startup Canada and Startup Vancouver, we are about collaboration, not competition. And that's what we do with everything. And we come from a place of abundance and a place of just being gracious and helping where we can. And that's really our secret sauce and what we do as community builders here. And part of building that community would not happen without the gracious sponsor partners that we have tonight with Futurepreneur, Community Futures British Columbia. SFU Venture Labs has been an amazing in-kind partner with us because they provide the technical backdrop, everything that goes on, that makes the magic happen here tonight, both with Pauline and Fiona behind the scenes. So I thank them again for helping us out there, and also with MasterCard Canada and also our good friends at Startup Canada. And with Jack.org, of which Eric will tell us about their backstory and his connection to that and the creation of Jack.org. we're very proud to have them as our charity sponsor again. And tonight is no different. And I do encourage everyone, if you haven't done it already, to please donate to JAT.org, which you can do by just going to their website there, hit the donate button. And as far as in honor, just put it to Startup Vancouver, so they can track that and know that you've made an impression here tonight with what we and the 6 amazing speakers are sharing with us tonight. So, and the other piece we have as far as our pillar and our reason to be is we make entrepreneurship welcoming and inviting for everyone. So no matter gender, age, sexual orientation, ethnicity, tech, non-tech, we support all entrepreneurs at all stages, not just startups. And we walk that walk, as I mentioned, through what we've done pre-COVID with our van startup stories, whether it's celebrating women entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, Indigenous entrepreneurs, LGBTQ entrepreneurs. And that brings us, and I should also mention that if you want to watch this one afterwards, or tell your friends about it, or watch some of the other great shows with amazing speakers that we've had on in the past, just go to our Startup Vancouver YouTube channel. So we've got all that great content there, and we'll have this one posted early next week for you. Also, we want to make this an interactive and engaging 2 hours of conversation. So the way this will work tonight, our speakers will have around 12, 13 minutes to tell their story, and then followed up with a Q&A. As your host, I'll be asking some questions, but we'll also be opening up to the audience. So if you have any questions for our speakers, please put them in chat or in Q&A, and we will definitely make that happen. I see Stanley has an ask there. Will it be recorded? As I just mentioned there, yes, it will, and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. Absolutely. So again, my name is Colin Weston, Startup Vancouver community leader. If you want to get a hold of me, you can do it by email, also through Twitter. And once again, it's just such an honor tonight to be part of this. And I am presenting to you tonight from the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. It is our honor to be here on their unceded land. And with that, I do want to start with our first speaker tonight, and that is my good friend, Rivers Corbett. And to give you a quick background, he's a man that wears so many entrepreneurial hats. At the moment, what he's created over the last couple of years is the founder of ChefTorial, which I've experienced. I'll let him tell all the good things there with the culinary experiences that they're creating. But he also has a podcast with Headspace for Entrepreneurs. He's also been the entrepreneur in residence for Opportunities New Brunswick. He was also a podcast host for Startup Canada. And I had the pleasure of meeting him about 6-7 years ago through Startup Canada. And I would have never known who this Rivers Corbett gentleman is if it wasn't for Startup Canada, where he was a national advisor for many, many years. So with that, if we can stop sharing the screen, and I want to hand it over to Rivers Corbett for our first talk of the evening. Rivers, take it away.
Thank you, Colin, so much. I really appreciate it. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for being here this evening. Colin's just kind of gone through a bit of my background. I ooze entrepreneurship. I believe that I was brought to the planet to serve entrepreneurs, and it's my great honor to talk tonight about a journey that many entrepreneurs go through. And by having conversations like we're having this evening, I think we can only heighten, one, the awareness, but two, being able to help entrepreneurs in their journey with mental health issues. In my case, it was depression, and I'm going to take you through a journey of that. We only got a short time with me, but as I say, I'm going to take you through this journey of my life as it specifically relates to 12 minutes, as you can put it into that, and share with you elements of just this magical ride that I've been on, which includes actually having depression along the way. And so as entrepreneurs, as I say, I'm here to serve you. I personally believe entrepreneurs are going to save the world. I believe they are in the pecking order just below moms. And that's why it's important for us to make sure we're all looking after each other. And we're going to be the next heroes on the front lines after this COVID is over. So if we can bring up my first slide, that would be great, please. It's very, very simple. Back in the 60s, there was a great cult movie that was born, and some of you are probably chuckling. Actually, does anybody just in the chat, anybody ever see this movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It was a cult movie made by Clint Eastwood many years before he started. Love that movie. And it was done, I think, in Italy. I think that's where they did it. But this is the journey that I want to take you through in my journey with as being an entrepreneur, but also in being a man, being a husband, being a father, being an entrepreneur, and so on, as it relates to my journey with mental aware or mental health, my issues with that. So can we go to the next slide, please? So in the movie, there's a guy who's the good. And just like with the good in the movie, Mr. Clint Eastwood, the good looking guy, I've had my goods also. I was pretty well a happy kid growing up. Very, very supportive family. I was one of those kids that, no, don't go to bed yet. There we go. Thank you. I'll get to the bed. And, I was one of those kids that who I had parents who said that Rivers can do it. So I was brought up into through a very positive environment. High school president for the student council in the university that I went through. I received an award as the male student who gave the best efforts or contribution to student life in my last year. And I'm saying these things to you because it's relevant to the story that I'm telling you, to understand that depression owns no boundaries. It is not stereotypical. I was fortunately on the team that introduced cellular phones to the cellular industry to the province of Nova Scotia. Look, I've done lots and lots of world traveling. By the age of 32, I came back to New Brunswick, brought up my family businesses, which had many, many, many different businesses to it. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur, always wanted to do those things. And at that point in time, I actually also started a new company, which was called Rent-A-Chef at the time, that really became a national organization over the years. And so I say all these things, plus combined with the facts that this is a journey. I was never exposed to anything associated with mental health, mental issues through this journey. It was just one of those ones. Well, my grandmother had it, just shake it off. That's the environment that I was brought up in. So I wasn't aware, I didn't know anything about it. And nobody ever talked about depression during those times. It was just shake it off. And so very, very lucky to go through that. Why I say all that is that I am the last person on the planet that you would ever think that suffered through the journey that I am going to take you through. And so a key lesson there again is that depression, mental wellness issues knows no boundaries. It's like COVID. It can go and attack anybody along that journey. So around the age of 40, that's when things started to go bad for me. So can we skip into the next slide that says the bad? Now, this guy was a bad mother effer in the movie, and he was always causing havoc. He didn't care about your pain. He didn't care how uncomfortable with you. And that's the journey that I went through when it came to me starting to dive into getting depression. One of the things that really started with me, and this might relate to many of you who are entrepreneurs, is that I made a major decision associated with my business. It was about building a new nursing home facility that was going to cost millions and millions of dollars to actually construct. We had to, but at the same time, also I was building other businesses. I had a young family at the time, and it was a very busy time period as an entrepreneur. And many of us as entrepreneurs know this. We think we're invincible. We can just take it on and take it on and take it on. Well, I had to make a decision because in order to construct this building, I had to approve the financing for it because we were coming into winter. Now, I'm from New Brunswick. We don't have the rainy seasons that you do in British Columbia. And so the frost was going to cause delays unless we started to deal with the foundation of this building. And so I had to make the decision on the word of the financiers that everything was going to be okay. So I approved it, put all the team together, signed all the contracts, and away we went. Well, into that journey, of course, the financier decided there were issues associated with the financing. They needed this done and this done. Anybody that's ever gone through major purchases, there's always last minute issues that have to be dealt with. And there was for me. Oh, by the way, I also forgot to tell you, I was training for a marathon at the time. Kids, multiple businesses, financing a multi-million-dollar operation, and dealing with running a marathon at the same time. Ultimately, what happened is that the financing got even more delayed, and I got construction crews there that are needing to be paid. Bills were mounting, people weren't being paid. And here's the other thing. And if you've ever been through this journey of depression, winter is not your friend. Of course, I didn't realize that at the time. So winter was coming on. Just another one of those things that piled on. I ended up not sleeping well. I was right. I was snappy with the kids, and I was snappy with my partner. My cup was really, really filling up. And, you know, I still thought I was invincible because, again, I didn't have this awareness around what I was actually going through. And this is what I love about where I'm at right now is, of course, this huge awareness. So all of a sudden, the bad hit. And this is after my marathon. If any of you know about Olympic athletes, they typically go into depression after finishing the Olympics. So now can we go into the ugly, sorry. So now this is the ugly guy. Here's what happened to me. I went to the doctor, for a typical checkup. The doctor was an intern, and this doctor saved my life. He asked me a simple question, and the question was, "How you doing, Rivers?" And my answer was, I started to cry uncontrollably in front of him. I couldn't compose myself. I had reached the breaking point. Now remember, I'm the most positive guy on the planet, and here I was at my breaking point, crying uncontrollably because of all of these things that were coming at me, these impetus, these trigger points, and they all come together at that same time. I broke down, and he said, "Rivers, you have depression." He knew within 13 seconds that I had depression. I didn't know what that was about. He said, "You just have it." I started to fall to pieces. I went into a dark, dark, dark spiral. And I'm talking, ladies and gentlemen, within 3 days, I was in bed. I was crying. I was dealing with all these emotional upheavals in my life and definitely not able to work. And I began a long, long journey that took me 3 months to come out of that swamp. Fortunately, I had a business partner at the time who was able to take over the responsibilities. I always set my businesses up so that I can work in them if I want to, not because I have to. And this is one of the reasons as an entrepreneur, you don't want your business relying on you. Because if you go down because of your health, your business is going down if you don't have resources to be able to support that. So during that time period, I slept for 3 weeks. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't spend any time with my kids during that time period. I was lonely. I had this amazing fear I was going through of losing everything. I remember driving out in the country one time, and I saw a shanty house, those little tar paper shacks, and I was sure I was heading in that direction. Because depression, of course, has this incredible ability to just envelope you and regard your life as pure sorrow. And again, I remind you, I was the guy that was always positive. It was awful, awful going through that. But then I started my journey back, and I'm conscious of time. So can we get into the next section? Because this is the back. This is the great. And here's how I was able to come back off of that journey of depression, as deep and dark and swampy and scary as it was at around the age of 40, where I thought I was going to lose everything. The first thing that I did is I understood that depression is a chemical issue. It is not a mental issue. It's all about the serotonins, all those elements in your body that cause cause your levels to go up and down. Wasn't sleeping right, wasn't eating right, pressures of all the elements of life and so on. So when I was able to understand that it was chemical, not mental, then I was able to move to the next stage of my journey back, which is that I had to accept that I was responsible for my own recovery, my own journey back. And so I accepted that. And then the next thing was, well, how do I do that? Well, fortunately, I had a great doctor, and he sent me to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist said, in the second meeting I was there, he says, "Are you exercising every day?" I said, "Yeah, I try to walk around the block." He said, "What are you doing spiritually?" Well, I'm a spiritual guy. I started reading the book about one of the pilots who flew the plane into the World Trade Center. It was about his wife's journey with spirituality during her time of depression. He said, "Are you taking medication?" I'm a firm believer that ultimately what came out of that conversation with the psychiatrist is that there's a formula specific for me to become better and being able to deal with depression. And so that was the other part of what not only did I learn during my recovery, but I learn now, because that's what's also important. You need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, as you're dealing with these challenges in your life with mental health issues, is that it's not going to go away. I live with depression every single day. I've just learned how to control it. And I think that's such a great blessing that I went through it, because now I know how to go forward in my entrepreneurial career, controlling a demon, the big wet dog, whatever you want to call it, that envelopes my going forward. So, I do think that depression for me in my journey has been one, is now I know the signs when it's coming to me. Winter is a journey that I have to adjust. I have to adjust my sleeping habits. I have to adjust my medication. I have to adjust, how I plan my day. I also know my formula, but I also know that I can control it, and that makes me feel very, very powerful. And here's the last thing that I've really enjoyed about my journey is I can help others. And so when Colin reached out to me to tell my journey, and this speech usually is about an hour and a half long speech, so I'm rushing through it, but is that men in particular, and you ladies are very smart with this when it comes to dealing with issues. You talk about it. You're very community oriented. Guys suck at this because it's the big man syndrome that comes into play. I've been able to help men go through the realization to say, if Rivers Corbett had it and he's able to recover, then I need to start to follow some of that advice. And that part of advice is surround yourself with people who are going to help you in that journey. Since then, I've built some incredible businesses. I haven't skipped a beat now that I know how to control my formula, but I do know that if I don't look after it, it will come back. And so anyway, that's a bit of my story. I can be followed on LinkedIn, by the way, and you can get me at Rivers Corbett if you ever want to follow up and just ask some questions about my journey. But I think it's just wonderful we're having conversations like this. So back to you, Colin.
All right. Well, Rivers, hold on there. Don't go away, my friend.
Yeah.
We do want to spend a couple minutes here asking some questions. Well, River, thank you so much for sharing your story with us here today and your journey, because it does take so much courage. And you and I are both around the same age and grew up of no fault of our fathers, because if we were them, we probably would have taken that same approach. And you learn from your father's father.
Yep.
And the fact you say this is something that is with you, well, for the rest of your life. So I wanted to ask you this, because there's also this stigma attached in Western culture to getting help, even with medication and antidepressants. And it's up to you whether you want to talk about it. But I know many people that I'm talking to, and it's more normalized than you think in talking about that. And that's okay. And it's not a failure of getting on something for a period of time or a long period of time to actually help you balance that chemical soup in your body. So I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
It's such, first of all, it's such a stupid, asinine thing to even think that way. Because if you needed oil in your car, which you do, you have no problem putting oil in your car. You don't go, oh, my car's the best in the world. It doesn't need oil. No, you put oil in it. You put all the lubricants in it. If you had diabetes, you wouldn't say, oh, no, I'm not taking my insulin today. I've got this diabetes under control. Matter of fact, you would actually deal with your insulin in public, knowing that you take whatever you need to do, the prick out in a restaurant, for goodness sakes. Yeah. All this is a formula for you to be successful with your body. Richard Branson said this once, Colin, and many times, sorry. He said, what's the best thing you can do for your business? He asked a crowd, and no one's ever got it right, but the answer is your health. That's the best thing you can do for your business. So just like you put the ingredients for the health and wellness of your business together, do the same thing for yourself. I say Synthroid and Effexor every single day. They're my happy pills. They allow me to be here today, proud of where I am, and it's great.
I consider you a mentor, a friend, a brother. I've learned so much from you, and I continue to do so. So I'm very grateful that you shared your story and your journey with us here today, Rivers. So before I move on to the next speaker, I did want to ask. I wanted to put it to Fiona here in the back there. Are there any questions in Q&A that we have, Fiona, from the audience here for Rivers that you see?
Yes, it looks like we do have a question in Q&A under publish. Did you want me to read them out?
Go for it, please.
All right, so from Stanley Lee. So does access to mental health depend on your financial ability to access therapy and social ability to be surrounded by supportive people?
Sorry, could you repeat that again? Does access to mental health?
Does access to mental health depend on your financial ability to access therapy and social ability to be surrounded by supportive people?
Yeah, the answer is no. That's what, this is the greatest thing about the entrepreneurship community. It's very inclusive and it's very much about helping. So I've never suffered once in getting the help that I needed because I know that entrepreneurship is a team sport. My health is a team sport. So no, it does not hamper that at all. But it starts with the man and woman in the mirror. You've got to assume that responsibility to say, I need help. And I got to tell you, when you come out the other side and you know how to deal with all this stuff, you're going to have a great life.
Amazing. And Rivers, I've been through some traumatic things over the last 12 months, and you've been so supportive and always reaching out. And every couple of weeks, you'll just text me and say, how you doing? Yeah. Not even say, well, maybe he needs to be left alone. I don't know if I should. You just do. You reach out, and we need to do that more. And I appreciate that, and I know others do also.
Can I say one thing, Colin, before I go?
Go for it.
It's a quick story, ladies and gentlemen, but it reinforces the point. I was home on my couch, just kind of this gray look on my face, and watching TV, and my accountant showed up at the door. And anyway, he stayed there for an hour with me, just out of the blue. But one of the things he told me, he says, Rivers, you're not capable of making major decisions in your life right now while you're recovering. And I thought that was such a cool thing because it reinforced, one, there's people that I can't do it, but other, you need to surround yourself with good people. And that's why that team approach is so important. So just allow me to thank you for doing it. And that's why I'm there for you, Colin, when you were going through your journey and still are, because depression has no timeline either to it.
It does not. So, and you're just one of the many people here this evening that I have surrounded myself with. We have 5 other amazing people that are now going to
get them going, man.